My name is Helene Aarvik. I work as Deputy Consul General at the Norwegian Consulate General in Mumbai. Our main task here is to promote more business between Norway and India. And maritime industry is really in the core of what we do here, and also in the core of our history with India. Today, though, we are going to focus on some of the new things we are also supporting from our consulate, which is towards clean oceans and what we do to create a sustainable blue ocean economy, as we call it, sustainable oceans. And with me, I have two entrepreneurs that I know attract a lot of interest. A lot of people are very much inspired by the two of you. And we're going to talk to you today about what has motivated, inspired you, how you see these movements moving forward in the time ahead. And also, it would be a great inspiration if you two discuss amongst yourself what you think really helps in pushing this forward. So first of all, I would just like to ask the two of you to introduce yourself. Graeme, can we start with you, please?
Hello, my name is Graeme Somerville-Ryan. I'm the founder of Icy. Icy is a maritime-backed pollution mapping initiative. We're relatively new. We've been going since December 2020. The app went live about 2 months ago. And our job is to use the reach and resources of the shipping industry to collect observational data on maritime pollution. It goes a little bit more than that, but that in a nutshell is what we do.
Thank you so much, Graeme. And then Afroz.
Hi, my name is Afroz Shah, a lawyer by profession. We work very hard in Mumbai and India to beat plastic pollution, to get circular economy in people's life. Thousands and thousands of people at the ground work on it. And it started with the beach cleanup, but it ends at circular economy and waste to value. That's the whole journey.
Exactly. And how long have you been doing this, Afroz?
It's almost now 7th year of my work. To tell you, Helena, frankly, it started as a people's movement, where everybody was involved, and I was leading that citizens movement. So first we did what we call beach cleanup, and then I knew as a lawyer, it doesn't end and begin there. That's one aspect of handling marine pollution. A lot of people misunderstand beach cleanup. I must clear for the viewers, beach cleanup is not about clean beaches alone. You get people to the focal point of pollution and tell them, look what the problem is. And can you make those changes at your houses, at your homes? As a consumer, you have a power in your hand, and as a voter of electing the right people who think rightly about Mother Nature. So these are two jobs which you do. And now it's gone back from beach cleaning. So we did we do mangrove cleanup. Mangroves are a very fragile ecosystem in Mumbai. So we do that. And then ocean cleanup with some boats, we do ocean cleanup as well. And then finally training up people, you see. So it's a 4-stage process. So it takes you right back. We train up people who live in what I call human ocean conflict zone. So Helena, this has been going on for 6.5 years, and I must compliment the Norwegians for it. Norwegians held my hand when nobody in the world did. They came forward, Erik Solheim, when he was the UN Environment Head, flew down to clean with me. And then you had the Norwegian Consulate, working very hard with me, and the Norwegian government too. And on that basis, we work as a collaboration actually. It's been going on. It's the 7th year running, Helena, now.
Thank you so much, Afroz. But you have previously told me a little bit about your motivation to start this in the first place. You grew up by the beach in Mumbai, and suddenly you saw it, covered by so much garbage that it was impossible to make use of the beach anymore. But I would like to ask Graeme, what was your motivation behind developing this app and trying to make the companies more responsible in the marine littering and pollution?
I guess Icy was developed as a way for the industry to show environmental care that was more than just compliance, more than ticking regulatory boxes. We looked at what the industry could do that no one else could when it came to maritime pollution. And that was in our view, take data points of what they saw at sea. And this is important because we're the only people that have access to this part of the world. We're the only people that sail, the blue water. We have access to littoral waters that others don't. This was something we could do that was good. And the response we had from the industry was fantastic. Especially from the operations guys, where everybody knows this is a problem. Nobody really knows what they can do to play their part in solving it. And this is a really easy, simple solution that allows everybody from seafarers through to ops guys, through to CEOs to be involved in a positive way. So that was sort of the motivator originally behind Icy. What we've seen since though is that we're now working with community groups in Chile, Hong Kong, South Africa, the UK, Norway. We just had a big launch there. There is so much desire to be involved in solving this problem. This is a really simple, easy way people can play a part. Our data is meant to be provided to other people to do good. So there is value in collecting this information to then give to other people to work their magic.
Exactly. So you're both talking about how the initiative you have taken has motivated more people, and you see that communities around you actually respond really well to your initiatives. So I would ask you to, could you, Afroz, mention a bit to Graeme, how do you see this app that he has developed? How could that affect the work you are doing here in Mumbai and around Mumbai shores?
I think I'll request Graeme to have Icy launch in Mumbai. That should be the starting point of his journey in India. I think, as he rightly says, mapping of areas of pollution and giving the data to the concerned players, maybe to a regulator, so that he makes the right policy, right law, or reaching out to consumers in terms of what the pollution is, And, Graeme, let me share with you, at beaches in Mumbai, other than plastic, you have a lot of oil coming on. And I had the opportunity to discuss with a lot of players who are involved, like the shipping, Director General of Shipping, Coast Guard, then the Environment Ministry here in Mumbai. And we are at loss to understand how this oil lands at the beach other than plastic pollution. Plastic pollution, of course, we trace it, whatever. So with the Icy app, it can be a great, Helena, thing if he's here in India. I don't think so. We have an app in India which does all this, mapping and collecting the data and giving it back to people who matter, whether it's the lawmaker or the consumer or general public at large. I think it's quite exciting to do all this, Helena. So I would request Graeme if you should have an app in Mumbai.
We will.
Why don't we start in Mumbai itself?
Absolutely. Sounds like a great idea. I think there's no shortage of people wanting to do good. This is certainly what we've seen around the world, including Mumbai, everywhere. Really, the question is, on a problem this large, how do we industrialize the response? And I don't mean that by automating pollution cleanup. I don't personally think that's going to be the simple answer. I think a much more effective way of driving change is to get a whole lot of people to do a very small piece of work. Pick up the cup you see as you walk past it. Don't throw the bottle in the river. If we have 1 billion people make very small changes to their life, we're going to see much bigger change.
Absolutely, Graeme. I completely agree with you. It has to be a holistic approach. You start with yourself, and probably, as you rightly said, if 7 billion of us do it, Graeme, yeah. And that'll be the big change. And that's what our work in Mumbai is. Helena has been at the beach; she's seen it. Of course, we work in slums and stuff like that, where we train each one why you shouldn't buy a plastic product. What stops? You see, eventually, if we keep on generating garbage, we'll keep on cleaning, we keep on recycling, we'll do all that. but reduction of garbage is key. So responsible production, responsible consumption, and that's what circular economy is all about. So I completely agree with you, Graeme, on that scale, that each one has to contribute its bit. You know, on the planet, you don't live alone, and there are other species existing. Every action of yours, whether the way we produce our food items, whether we do our packaging, and how we consume it, has a far-reaching effect on these animals who coexist with us. There are different species existing, and we must balance these rights. They have right to live peacefully. They have right to be left alone. And because of our individual actions, it is disturbing, disturbing their rights. Now, the narrative is very heavily loaded in our favor. We all say that, I'm a human, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. All kinds of things you want, but you don't think about other species. And I think what you said is right. Each one must take those baby steps. Yes. Exactly.
But Graeme, you mentioned that the app has been live for about 2 months now. Was that correct? What kind of effects have you seen so far?
Yes, the app has been live for 2 months. It's no problems yet. I guess what we've seen is a continuation of the data collected, data coming in that we had during testing. We have intentionally focused our, I guess, pool of data collectors on the maritime and shipping industry. We've been going to our members and to other shipping companies to get involved and get this app to seafarers. And this is our initial focus, is to make sure that the app is known amongst the seafaring and shipping community. And that is, that's important for a couple of reasons. And we're at a Maritime SheEO Conference. The first is because the seafarers and the shipping companies play a very unique role in this problem. Coastal data is important. We are always going to get more coastal information because more people live there. But the stuff we get from the blue water and from the ships, from the ports, provides a very different view of what's going on in terms of maritime health. So the shipping industry has a very unique and positive role to play here, and I think it's very easy to look at shipping as being the bad guys. And I think from an industry, we're scared of talking about environmental issues because we know that the finger is instantly going to be pointed at us, regardless of what the truth is. And Icy is a way of actually uncovering the truth. What is actually going on out there? Yes, there is pollution that comes from ships, but I suspect that is about 0.01% of the problem that we're seeing. Fishing gear plays a large role. Floating plastic, an enormous role. What is interesting from Icy is that we're seeing different results, sort of, from every location in the world that we cover. New Zealand, the UK, Canada, the US, India, the Philippines. Some areas are more impacted by certain types of pollution, but what we're seeing is that this is a problem that is everywhere. It's not India's fault. It's not the Philippines' fault. You can go down to your local beach in Norway and find pollution. And once we have this information, it opens up a range of ways of communicating with the public about what changes need to be made. And from my perspective, it's really nice that the shipping industry have had a role to play in the birth of this idea that, we can collect information, we can understand this problem better. And it's thanks to the support of the shipping companies and guys like Chartworld, who paid for the tech development to really change the way shipping interacts with the public. And for me, that's a really important part of how this is going to develop.
Exactly. So what I hear from both of you is actually you talk a lot about awareness. It's awareness of what exists out there. It's awareness of where our garbage, if it's like marine garbage, or if it's fishing nets, or if it's plastic from household consumption, where it ends up, and what kind of responsibility every single one of us have in ensuring that the oceans become more clean. But I was curious to hear both of your views on how do you see this task in the long term? Because I know for many people, from what I've heard, it seems a little bit never endless. The beach cleanings can continue for years and years. The monitoring or registration of litter at sea can be done for many years ahead without even seeing a tiny bit of result if you look at the overall picture. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about how do you keep up your motivation in the long run? What is it that keeps you going and working in this field to create this awareness and to continue to create this awareness?
First of all, I must inform Graeme that he's right. It's no country's fault. And I had the opportunity to clean some of the fjords in Norway. I had been cleaning in Risør. I hope my pronunciation is right. Risør, and at Oslo as well, and Bergen. And you saw all this in remote, uninhabited islands, small islands full of plastic. I mean, I was along with a lot of young children from Norway who stepped out with me, and it's a huge. Once you say that's a huge problem, then there are fair chances, Helene, of all of us getting intimidated. Look at 71% is water. How do we go about it? Should we do it every day? But I preface my answer to your question by saying that first of all, we are too many on this planet. And look at India, we are 1.5 billion, 7 billion people in the world. I think the Earth has, planet Earth and our Mother Earth is facing the brunt of we having too many. If you compare it with the other species, I don't know how do you balance these rights, that we are too many, we produce too much, we consume too much. But having said that, to answer your question about how do you keep on going long term, for me, it's always a love, there's a 4-letter word, LOV. Not many people understand it in India at times, at social media there's a lot of hate. I strongly believe that once you are in love with what you do, and if you're in love with Mother Nature, like you rightly pointed out, as a young boy, I lived near the ocean, and I used to play on this beach. I used to go to swim when I was 14, 15. And then you saw plastic coming onto this beach, and it came to an extent of 6.5 feet. So once you who live on coastal, and who better can explain the Norwegians, you have a fantastic ocean life, your young kids dip into water, your water is clear. But when I saw this, I had to take that steps. And it stemmed from a very Gandhian philosophy, our founder of my nation, Mahatma Gandhi, followed this, where collaboration is the key, hand-holding is the key, taking people along, inclusiveness, people from all background, whether they're rich, poor, and based on love, so that's how it keeps me going. So when you're in love, you want to, there is an adrenaline flow, there's a dopamine, which is hitting your brain, hand and mind. You want to keep on continuing. So that's what we do. And this question about how long, you see, it's like this. I answered it in this way that, see, we eat food every day. We take bath, shower every day. We go to office every day. We have a job to perform every day. So I see no reason why this part of life can be an everyday affair, whether it's cleaning a beach or cleaning a mangrove, or being around the nature or talking to people. I think it can become a part of our life. And thousands of people in Mumbai have done it. It's become a part of life. We talk about what the problem is. We talk about, can there be a possible solution? And I always feel, it's a global problem, Helena, and needs local solution. Waste is generated locally. Nobody in India is, if you go to Delhi, there's a different pattern of waste, the different pattern of how people are handling it. If you're in Mumbai, it's a different way of life. I'll give you a live example of how we work in Mumbai. If you go to a house, there are slums in Mumbai which are in human ocean conflict zone. That means they are within 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers of the ocean. Now, why does somebody get a plastic piece? And if he gets it, why does he throw it in the ocean or on the street and finally lands becomes a marine litter? These are questions which have to be asked because these are social phenomena. We have, I always, as a lawyer, I'm based on my experience at the ground, I always tell this is a socio-economic problem. It's just not purely economic. Otherwise, my prime minister would have got tender out everywhere for cleaning, for making changes. We human have a social aspect and an economic aspect, and this problem of waste or marine debris or generation of garbage and making it land in the environment is a socio-economic phenomenon. It's a combination of social factor and economic. So both have to be combined. The solution lies there. And let me tell what, a lot of viewers who don't know, Graeme, I must put out, the Norwegian Consul General works with me on this very aspect, The Ministry of Foreign Affairs have come in and, where there's a tie-up for 3 years where we do all this. It's a social phenomena. So how do you reduce garbage? That's like the key. Generating garbage and handling it is one aspect. So we do a lot of projects on huge population. We do like on 10,000 people, 25,000, where we train them. Like, for example, I'll give you an Indian household. Helena is used to it now. We get different spices in our houses, and each spices come in small packets. Those packets eventually go to the landfill or to the ocean. So we run this program where we tell people, can you move without compromising on the quality, the price, and stuff like that, from a small packaging to bigger packaging, where we know, where as a community we come along and we do like 500 houses, 1,000 houses. These are smaller models which are needed, according to me. We like my Prime Minister keeps on saying that Swachh Bharat, Clean India, we have to get environment friendly, but his words have to be put into action somewhere at the ground. Otherwise, it will remain in empty words if we don't complement our governance module. And this has to do with not only governance module, the corporates, Helena, where we all come around and we say that, can we hold hands with each other? Can we do it together? Can we make these small steps? And these small models hopefully will become big and big as it passed about. When I started beach cleaning, nobody knew about beach cleaning 6-7 years back, at High Court, they would ask me, why are you going to pick up plastic from the beach, Afroz? You could move the court and tell the Chief Justice of Mumbai High Court, saying that, okay, pass an order. Somebody's not doing the job in the government. But we know that a lot of government policies do not work because of individuals like all of us. I always say that a law is as good as its obedience. If you obey the law, it's a good law. If you disobey the law, it's a bad law, and which we see flagrant violation of law all around, especially when environment is concerned. Like look now, Delhi has a AQI of some 432 in the morning today. Now we all are responsible. Some people are burning the stubble, some people are doing this, some people have their own lifestyle. So we will have to reevaluate, and the reevaluation and connect comes from, having conversations with people who are caught right in the middle of it, and people, especially in the lower economic strata. They don't know how to react to climate change. They do not know how to react to marine plastic because they do not have the resources. They're looking for a meal on the table every day. And I feel very strongly that they are the most impacted. They live in human ocean conflict zone. They are the most impacted. Okay, and they are supposed to be the solution. So how do you spring up organic solutions from below, from right below the ground level with local concepts? So that all drives me, and it's purely based on Helena, on love. We bond over food. So you'll see a lot of Indians bonding over food, a lot of people conversing over food, what the problem is, and then taking those baby steps at home, which is so vital, which Graeme talked about.
Yeah, I agree with Afroz. I think you've raised some really interesting points there, mate. I mean, for me, it was interesting. My introduction to this was not as an environmentalist. So I would say I'm not an environmentalist. I think I probably am one now after doing this for nearly a year.
But the fact that, Graeme, you love Mother Nature, that's good enough. I don't know how the definition of environmentalist can't be so narrow-ended. The fact that you love Mother Nature, you are there.
I think for me, it's a it initially came as there was a problem. How do we solve it? And that was from a very much problem-solving mindset, I guess. But I think the more I've done this, I think there are some fundamental problems with the way the world is trying to solve this issue. And I don't think what is being done now is working. It's not a very popular thing to say, but the reality is it's a problem that is growing. So thus what we are doing is not working. For me, it's I guess now it's a case of like, well, if we don't do this, who does? Because we've seen fundamental systemic failure from the people that should be running this, and it's been pushed into the hands of nonprofits and well-meaning people like Afroz, Nancy Parsons, all over the world. So if we don't do it, who's going to? And everybody has a role to play in this. And I think this is what inspires me about being involved in this, is that we get approached about 3 times a week by people wanting to be involved. And these are people from either maritime companies or just people off the street who contact us through Instagram. That gives me a lot of hope that this is we're moving in the right direction. But what has been interesting from my perspective is that the people we've had the least engagement from have been governments, and the least support. And I think this is a problem that has to be addressed. Not as in, oh, we all love the ocean. Okay, we all love the ocean. Yes, it's very important. But actually, how do we push change through, and how do we use the data that we collect properly? That's why data is so important, is because data allows us to quantify this problem and then allocate action based on real information. And that is, again, like, not wanting to plug Icy, but that's the whole point of Icy. But the question, I would pose to the audience is that what's been fascinating is we've had far more positive responses from industry and the corporate world than we have from the public sector. So on launch, we were approached by IBM. We'd be engaged in a dialogue with them, but they wanted us to be part of their Plastic Net project, which uses AI to analyze pollution data from photos. So we're giving all our data to the AI Watson project. We have been, HSBC is funding us to map Manila Bay. So we are now starting a project to map Manila Bay. We have been involved with the cleanup in Mumbai, where we're providing a small amount of funding to a chap on Vasai Beach to undertake a cleanup. But what has amazed me is that we have not been approached by a single public sector entity about the value of this information, which I find fairly disheartening. I don't know, maybe disheartening, maybe it's not. But I think it shows the importance of, like, we can't wait for people to come to a lovely agreement where everyone is on the same page. You just have to take action and fight your way through it. So yeah, I enjoy a fight. So that's what keeps me going every morning. But I think, like, the problem is, is that there are plenty of people who just burn out and disappear off the radar, and these are good people. And I'm sure, Afroz, you've seen it from your cleanup. There are people who are very enthusiastic, but then there's no reward, there's no recognition, there's no support, and they drift away. And so you're losing your greatest advocates because so much is reliant on Afroz or Icy or Sanjam, and we don't have enough bandwidth to cover everything. Is that fair, Afroz? Do you agree on that?
Let me twist the coin. In law, when as a lawyer, you have arguments and corollary arguments as well. So let me put what you're saying is right. The infrastructure, the resources, the collaboration, and the efforts which is required, which is linked to both social and economic factors, are missing. But I look at the problem a little differently. I feel that everybody must start this journey. If we start with the assumption that whether the problem will finally end or no, only time will tell, Graeme, that finally whether marine litter will vanish from this planet Earth or no. But I strongly feel that we must start the journey. We must make all out effort. We must collaborate and we must push. That's our job to do. Push at every length. What you raised is correct. After 7 years of the work, first let me answer what you said on data. Data, a lot of people in India misunderstand beach cleanups as saying that, oh God, law must be decided on based on beach cleanup. And I am a strong opponent of it, having picked up 70 million kgs for past 7 years. I don't say that please make a law based on beach cleanup, but of course on scientific evidence. If the data is properly analyzed, what kind of plastic, who's littering, where the problem arises, how to nip that problem in the bud. So that's as far as data goes. But on the systemic level, which you rightly raised now, Graeme, at the government level, look, I'll give an example of my country. We have an Environmental Protection Act, which is like a big umbrella. And then we have rules under it framed by the central government, like solid waste management rules, plastic waste management rules. And then we have federal cooperativism in India. So you have at state level of some kind of law, okay, on plastic, whether it's a ban, whether it's a regulation. But as I rightly said, on systemic level, if people like you and me or Sanjam or Helena do not take this scientific data to them and tell them what's happening at the ground, you know, every person in that system, whether it's a bureaucrat or minister, also wants to do the right way. They are not ill-intentioned. They want to have their child in a safe planet. They want people to swim in water. They want the rivers to be clean. They want the Mother Nature to be clean. But I think we can act as a bridge, you know, and we can converse with them and tell them and explain to them, talk to them, spend time with them. And I'll tell you, Graeme, I have had fabulous experiences with bureaucracy and government in Maharashtra and the state union level, where you absolutely, when you met them the first time, you said, oh my God, it looks like a hopeless case. They don't get it. The planet Earth isn't the problem. And we humans are good at conversing. We know to hold each other's hand. And it has worked beautifully. I have seen so many changes in past 6 years in my country. But of course, can you say that it's good enough? No, it's not good enough. Let me honestly share with you, it's not good enough. Many more people and many more governments will have to get active. So the first is you should get the law right. Your policy, your regulation, your orders must be right. It must be framed back on evidence, and which is the data which we get. Scientific evidence must be presented to them saying this is the problem, one. So in my work, I collect a lot of data. Being a lawyer, I'm very conscious of the fact, you know, evidence, it has to be backed by the evidence. It cannot be my ipsy dixit or my saying that, oh, I did beach cleanup and so much garbage came out. No, no. So you have data which is at the litter stage, post litter, when it actually lands in the ocean or at the beach or the mangrove. And then you have data which emanates from the houses. Why they are buying the plastic, what prompts them to buy the plastic. So I think our job is very clear, Graeme, and I feel very correctly when you say that less is being done, but we should not get disheartened and we should push for more. And we will be doing it, Graeme, all our life. Let me honestly share with you, I'm not under illusion that during our lifetime, this problem will vanish. Hopefully it does. I pray it does, and I go back and swim in my beach rather than picking up garbage there. I wish that day comes, but I must buzz the bubble. However optimistic and you are about life, this problem is huge, 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 huge. You know, I'll give you an example. When I take these boats in my ocean cleanup, you know, intertidal zone, you have to see the amount of garbage. You know, those mangroves are such ecologically sensitive, and you see thousands and thousands. Nobody has ever got. You know, the Bollywood of this in the city of Mumbai lives in the backyard of that mangroves. It's a, you know, you have high rises staying there and they don't even know what mangroves are. The kids there do not understand mangroves. They do not know what is this. They think it's a sewer. It's an intertidal zone. Now, how do you take that kid and that adult there saying that, look, this is your nature. You live next to it. So we'll have to take a long journey. And I'm mentally prepared, and thousands of volunteers are prepared. And hopefully I am very optimistic one day will come, Graeme, and you and me will sit saying, okay, some dent has been made at the government level and some dent has been made at the ground level. That's our journey.
I think the biggest issue is how do you include more people? Yeah. And what incentives can be put up? Yes. And this is not about, oh, fund a non-profit. That's not what I'm talking about.
Correct.
This is how do you incentivize more people to be involved in solving this problem? And this is, I guess, like the fun thing that we've discovered is that almost everybody in the maritime industry that we've approached wants to be involved to a greater or lesser degree. And that's because I think by and large they've been left out of this discussion, which is insane given the role they play on the oceans. The question is, like, how do we keep these people going? How do we keep companies involved? How do we keep seafarers involved? And like now we're talking like the nitty gritty, which is the most important. How do we keep beach cleaners involved? Everybody wants to show up to one beach cleanup and feel good about themselves, and that's fantastic. But how do we make this, you know, rather than 500 people showing up, how do we get 15,000 to show up? How do we get 15,000 to show up in Mumbai, and then 15,000 to show up in Delhi. And it doesn't matter whether you're on the coast or not. How do we get 15,000 to show up in Chile? How do we get 15,000 to show up in New Zealand? These are all much like, this is what we should be discussing. In my humble opinion, not too humble, right? But I think this is the part that hasn't been addressed, is how do we actually inspire much larger numbers to take part? And there has to be a role for government here, and there has to be a role for companies. Like,
that's exactly,
everybody has a place to play.
That's exactly what we address in Mumbai. My cleanups, sometimes I had to stop people coming for cleanup because there are too many people on the beach. We have had 6,000 and 10,000 people on a 3-kilometer beach. So, now also during pandemic, I don't put out Facebook event due to the pandemic rules and regulation. So you get hundreds of messages every day. See, once you get across to a person with simple conversation and that person understands, he becomes another Afroz. Then you create another. There's a chain block building, which we call chain rising up, saying that, oh, all of us must go out to do it. And as I tell Mahatma Gandhi, our founding father, showed us this great way. And I am taking a cue from that, and it's happening. So you start with small, like first 3 months of my cleanup, let me tell you, Graeme, I was all alone. If I had given up hope then, saying that nobody is joining me, this is a 3-kilometer beach and full of garbage, and me alone with one 80-year-old man called Mr. Mathuri, I could have given up then. But then I told myself that someday people will rise there. See, the journey of truth is difficult, always difficult. We humans are very good with lies. If you spread lies, it spreads like how? On social media is a classic example, and then you have alternate, what you call fact checkers, alternative facts, and God knows what not. So the journey of truth is going to be difficult. But having said that, we will have to do that. All of us will have to do that. I do that every day. Like every day, if you find me, I'll be at some point of Mumbai conversing with people. There'll be people over for lunch, dinner at my house. We talk about all the time. We talk about how do you convince, and especially young people between the age group of, say, 5, 6 to 21, because I strongly believe they're the leaders. If they get it right, we'll get it right. Let me give you an example of Helena's son Idris. He came for the cleanup, and I'll have to tell you, all of us were in love. You saw his energy. You saw his pickup. A young boy of 3-4-year-old putting out to me and to everybody saying, why should he come to clean the beach? What are these plastics? What do you do with it? And I was quite fascinated, So this younger generation is something we must touch upon. And let me tell you, marine problem of marine litter and marine debris in Mumbai city has become big. When we started it, I was alone, 1 or 2 people up. 3 months, I did it all alone. And now you have thousands and thousands of joining. And they join every week. They make those changes at home. We talk about it. There's a conversation at our beach saying that who has made the change or what changes are required in lifestyle. These are all ongoing exercises, and it must go on. At the same time, we must push at the government level also. Advocacy and policy making is a vital part of this journey. A lot of people think that I should do this and move away from this. I should do that and move away. Advocacy and policy where government are told. And once government frames the right regulation, once they frame the right regulation, how does this right regulation reaches a corporate? Does he understand it or no? And then does it reach a consumer? It has to reach all parts of the society for everybody to react to the problem. Having said that, when you have people coming on beach in hundreds and thousands, then they're coming at the mangrove cleanup, then they're making those changes at the house. It creates an enormous pressure on the governance system also, saying that, look, these are happening, people are rising up, and why are they doing it? So that's the correct approach. As Mr. Erik Solheim from Norway puts it, 6 years, 7 years back, if the problem of plastic pollution was to be discussed at a government level. So, in Indian hierarchy, the lowest government officers was told, you talk about it. Okay. So it had to be a joint secretary level officer saying, talk about plastic pollution, what it is. Now the situation is such, Prime Minister Modi talks about it. Every speech of his is tempered with how do we protect Mother Nature, which we have not seen. How did it reach them? may Mr. Modi, clean the beach. I have never seen a prime minister stepping on a beach to clean it. He himself went, he was staying in Madras, and he said, I must go and clean. I've seen him sitting with the, with the waste segregation, which we do here. I saw Prime Minister Modi segregating different plastics to make sure that it's recycling. So it has reached them. It's only that we'll have to push little more the envelope, so that they do more at the system level. They do more. 7 years, Graeme, I have worked very hard at the ground. And I told myself, I commit my life to this planet, I commit my life to this country, and I commit my life to thousands of citizens, who actually want to become green, who actually have a green thumb. They're born with it, like how I told about Idris. Idris is born with a green thumb. He's got it right early. But millions who are born with it are not proceeding in that direction. And our job is to just nudge them a little bit. Nudge them. Like, when one volunteer of mine who's been staying on this very beach for 33 years, she came up to me, she's saying, why didn't it strike me that I should go and clean Afroz? What struck you that you went out? So I told, that's what it is. Sometimes a problem is in front of you, but we don't know how to react to it. So the reaction to the problem is what we should create, a conducive atmosphere, a ecosystem. Like my beach, if you come, whether I'm cleaning a Warsaw or Danapani beach, 2 beaches in Mumbai, you go there, it was not garbage friendly pickup. I had to pick up the garbage. I didn't know how to take it off the beach because there were steps. No vehicle could go in. So you won't believe, I used to push on a hand cart. There are a lot of hand carts in Mumbai roads, where they sell their wares like fruits. So I used to put there, then go there, and then 2-3 people are sitting there. I used to say, can you help me lift it? It's just 10 feet. And they would willingly oblige, saying, oh, you are stuck, we'll get you out. And look, from there to now, we are having bobcats. Reliance Industry was kind enough to work with me. We got a solution out, and a bobcat works. From a person who drove a hand cart on the beach to a sophisticated machine. So you had, but as you said, we need to create models. We need to spread it out. Graeme, I strongly believe all these models will eventually spring up. It's a matter of time. We have to bear patiently and do it. But I hope and pray that by that time the planet Earth doesn't go out of operation for all of us, and we face the brunt. Especially, people who live in the lowest economic strata. They are bearing the brunt of climate change. They are bearing the brunt of garbage. They are bearing the brunt of waste problem not being segregated. They are bearing the brunt of circular economy not being implemented. And we people who are slightly well off in terms of economics, we should actually be doing far more than those people up, because they contribute little to the global warming, they contribute little to other problems, but they're facing the major brunt.
Exactly. So it sounds to me that both of you are what we would call fighters. You really believe in your cause, and you believe in making and creating awareness. So actually, I wanted to end with sort of the question about which you both have touched upon already, is what really makes the difference? Where is it people should push even more? And we talked about pushing the politicians, pushing businesses, but we also talked about awareness and education. And I was a bit curious, Graeme, is your app and the technologies, is it also going to be used in educational circles somehow to show what is happening out on the ocean, or to use it for any scientific purpose or anything in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, the data is available, and part of ICE's founding charter is that the data is available to anyone who wants to do good with it. So exactly. Researchers, education providers, you name it. And it's very early days yet. I mean, I think it's a really interesting, where to from here is a really interesting and an important question that has to be answered. And it comes right back to like what I think we're lacking is action based on data. And when we first started ICE, like part of my thinking was that, there are people in Northern Europe who go into a beach cleanup and they spend 5 hours walking along a beach and collect 20 kilos. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's good work, good job by these people. But like when we what I think is lacking in this whole discussion is an analysis of what effort and work and money goes into what result. Because if we are if we're in a race here of pollution versus time, where do we best spend our money? What do we best regulate? If speed is important, and I think we can all agree speed is probably quite important. You know, if I have $10 million to spend on cleanup, where do I put that $10 million? I can invest that in a piece of tech which has a 10% chance of working, 3% chance of working. That's not a terribly good gamble. Or I could put $10 million into hiring a whole lot of people to clean up Mumbai. I know I'm going to get a result there. It's using the lessons and our experience in business to try and solve this problem, almost from an economics point of view, that I think is really important. And it's not, I know this isn't probably an overly popular thing to talk about, but there's a finite amount of money and resources that go into this. So how do we best use that? And I can tell you, like, the work that Afroz is doing, sure. How much do you want, Afroz? Like,
if I put out my balance sheet of what I earned as a lawyer before I started public service, a lot of politicians in India may face a lot of flack.
Yeah, I mean,
because after I started working on the social cause from 2016 onwards, 2015 onwards, so my personal income graph dips, but that's a choice I have made. Let me honestly tell you, that's a choice I made. In India, you see, I'll tell you, Graeme, little deviating from what you said, we worked on, in India, at least in my nation, we work on a philosophy of duty to a lot of things. We are very dutiful to our mother, father. We are dutiful to a lot of aspects. And our constitution, this is not just my thinking. My constitution has two parts to it. One is rights which we demand from the state. Say, for example, if you're running a business venture, you must demand from the state that business conducive atmosphere, whether it's in terms of finance, whether in terms of regulation, must be done. All tick boxes must be there for an ideal business to flourish. But my constitution has another part to it, which is called duty. A duty you owe towards your nation, your duty you owe towards planet Earth. And one of the duty which we have set in our constitution, which is implicitly written there, is to protect and preserve Mother Nature. So what I am doing right now at this stage, and thousands of people are fulfilling their duty to protect and preserve Mother Nature. See, we always demand. I see a lot of people demanding from my Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, you must do this. Mr. Modi, of course you must in a democracy. You must vote. You must pay your taxes. But what is the other flip side is you must fulfill your duty. That's one part of the answer. The other is, if you classify this as purely economic problem, Graeme, you are absolutely on dot that money must flow in and there must be solution. But as I told you, this looks to be, to me, after 7 years of groundwork, it looks to be a combination of social and economic factor. I'll give you a small example. Okay. There is what you call milk pouches in India. Okay. Take a very small example. Milk pouches are monolayer. That means it is easy to recycle, one. Second, there's a money attached to it. Okay. And each milk pouch is 3.4 grams. You find that our beach cleanups, in our mangroves, in our ocean, millions of those milk pouches. If you ask a milk producer in India that how come it's perfectly recyclable, how it has landed into Mother Nature, it's got a price attached to it. Now I'll do the calculation why it's social. Now I'm coming to the economic seems to be right. Saying that it's recyclable, please give it, you'll get money for it. Each pouch is 3.4 grams. So to make 1 kg, you'll have to collect those milk pouches for 365 days. Okay, look at this problem. That means for 1 kg, you get 20 rupees in India. For 20 rupees, he has to collect it in his house for 365 days and then to wash with the water. So the social phenomena says out of sight, out of mind. That 20 rupees is not needed. I don't want that. So throw it into the ocean, throw it on the road, throw in the garbage, throw in the landfill. Hence, I say it like health sector. If you look at your health sector in Europe and North America, it's subsidized by the government. Now, if you ask me, does it make a business sense for the government to put money, on people who are unwell, ill? It's like that. This waste problem and environment diagram is exactly a combination of social. So you are absolutely right. Economics must work, and it must work, and finally it will work at the end of the day. But when there is a combination of this, somebody will have to do this subsidized. Like in India, I'll tell you, there's a law called Extended Producer's Responsibility, EPR, purely on social aspect. A company runs a business of plastic. He is not littered it, but he produced plastic. So the law says you take your plastic back from Mother Nature. You can do it by A way, B way, C way, D way. All options are set out. There's a draft EPR policy which is out. Hopefully it will be good, but this is what it is. The government also understands there's a social aspect to this problem. Social aspect can be supported by money, but it can't go the full hog. Economic aspect, yes. Like for example, you take the plastic chain. How do you end that last loop, the last kilometer, waste to value? So once you've got the plastic, how do you convert into value? So it's a combination, Graeme. So I strongly feel that we'll have to go through the socio-economic phenomena for some time. Hopefully the world will become purely economic and it will be left to the businesses and not to the non-profit and putting it in their lap saying this social phenomena we don't do, you do. In fact, look at my work, it's bang opposite. 4 years I worked without a non-profit. 5 years I was an individual. Thousands of my volunteers were individual. We told my effort, my money, my time. We were all contributing ourselves. Nobody paid us. Nobody did anything. So that's the issue. You see, to understand the problem in its length and breadth first, then after understanding, taking the right step. So Graeme, I feel you are absolutely right. It must be eventually solved economically. I am completely, but the question is it right at this point of time with billions of people getting plastic and littering everywhere? You know what I mean? How do you change the mindset? How do you change habit? Habit changing, no money will be 40. If you change one house from the what you call generating 1 kg of plastic to circular, nobody's going to pay you. Where is the money? What are you going to sell? And I gave you an example of that milk pouch, one pouch which has created havoc. Forget about the multi-day packaging, we can't be recycled. I talked about a perfectly recyclable material. Perfectly. Like I'll give you another flip on economic side. You look at the PET bottles in India. All PET bottles, if they are not contaminated and if they've not landed in Mumbai, all are recycled. So if you see the percentage of PET bottles being recycled is huge. Why? Because it has got weight attached to it. You see the economic factor creeps in and then the social factor creeps in. So people say that they throw on the streets of Mumbai but when you go for a beach cleanup, you don't find it. All rack pickers have picked the PET bottles. You know, people who work in the informal waste sector, they pick it up because there's a value. They'll get some 20-30 rupees per kg for it. So they pick it up. But if you tell a household, which is perfect, the household doesn't keep. How many PET bottles you like? The houses are small in Mumbai. In slums, they live in 10 by 10 houses, 6, 8 people. There's no space to sleep. Where is the question of collecting garbage? That's where, Graeme, people like us, you know, our work becomes very, very important to stress on some facts which must be stressed and which must be brought to the notice of the lawmakers, you know, advocacy and policy front with this data. So I strongly feel that we'll have to have a combination for some time, and hopefully, as you rightly said, eventually we must turn to economics and let people solve it by money. I think that will be the eventual goal, you know, saying that, okay, 1 kg of plastic, well, you get this much, nobody litters, nobody cleans, nobody maintains any data. Money must solve the problem. It will eventually happen. I'm very hopeful it must. But till the time it doesn't, we'll have to go through this journey. And one thing I must pick up from your word, you know, very important, leaving it to the charity and NGOs to solve the problem is the most hazardous route. Most hazardous route. People from business must come forward. Don't leave it to them. They do not have expertise there. They have expertise only in the social part, but the expertise of economic lies with people in the business. Once you give that socio-economic model, they'll work on it, you know. So that's the vital thing. So some laws are saying that some socio-economic factor go like this. Some laws are purely economic and some laws are purely social. But here we are in a combination of all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the future of, especially for the maritime industry, I see the future of this as being, this is going to be a point that is regulated.
Yes.
Which scares me enormously, because it's going to be regulated based on no information or very little and poor information. And that leads to bad regulation and, you know, further onus on ships and seafarers to do things that, or, you know, be involved in ways they either can't or ways that are irrelevant. And again, this is why I think data and information is so important, because that is one area that no one is focused on, and certainly from our point of view. There's plenty of people doing cleanup. There's plenty of regulation already through MARPOL and various international agreements, but we're sailing very close to a line. See, beautiful maritime analogy, where regulation is going to come in based on goodwill rather than actual knowledge of what's going on in the oceans, and that I think is just going to cause more problems. And of course, as soon as you start to regulate this, you also allow for ways around it. And I think most, my line is that no one sets sail to cause harm. You know, at its heart, the shipping industry is made of good people who want to do right by the ocean. We need to be involved in this discussion from both a commercial, non-profit, and regulatory stance. But just relying on the regulators to do this, no, nothing will change.
I completely agree with you, Graeme. I completely agree with you.
I think you.
And Sanjay, you know, Helena, he's so right that laws which are not based on data and evidences from the ground can be very dangerous. I must tell you, it can be very dangerous. In fact, instead of improving the situation, it may make worse. It may make the pollution worse. So I completely agree with Graeme, you know, and that's why at the beginning I told you you're needed here in India, Graeme. Your app must be in India. We must
we'll have a talk later on.
We must give the data properly collected to the government and make them make laws based on strong evidence. That's 200% on.
I think we should end this session with the conclusion there. As far as I see it from my perspective, you both work on this topic from quite different angles, but you both agree on the fact that it's data-based advocacy and data-based action that is needed, if it comes from the government or if it's from business or even from local communities and awareness raising in schools and education centers. It's all about basing it on a data collected either through apps like Icy or through all the data you have collected through the many years of actually collecting the garbage at the beaches and sites in Mumbai, Afroz. So I would just end this with saying thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure both of you have now inspired even more people than you already have inspired so far. I know there's a lot of young people engaged in this field. And it's also inspiring to hear that the shipping industry, the maritime industry, is eager to do something. And it's inspiring from the perspective of Afroz to hear that the businesses are getting more involved. So I guess we can only end this session by telling you both that keep on fighting and keep on doing this good work and lead this good work so that more and more people can join, be inspired, and be good advocates based on actual data that is now existing more and more. So I would like to end with that and thank you both for joining us, and encourage all of the listeners to come with questions. I believe there will be a Q&A session in the end, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Helena.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Graeme, for being a part of this. It's a lovely discussion.